makes a great difference to the ways that we live our lives and even conceive of our lives, how we understand not just who we are, but what we are. Yeah. So I wonder if you'd tell us a little bit, what is a human being and what is the human place in the world?
It's very clear that the Hindu tradition understands human beings to have a very unique place in creation. And that unique place, I think, arises from the gift of self-consciousness that we are blessed with, that we enjoy. Not only do we exist, but we know that we exist, and that can be a source of great joy, but it's also a burden to live with. So we are, and we know that we are. We enjoy a unique consciousness is expressed in us in a very unique way, in our ability to know, in the will that we have, in freedom of choice that we enjoy. This uniqueness has never been articulated in the Hindu tradition in terms of human superiority to others, but much more in terms of human obligations and human responsibilities. That's where the emphasis is often found. It wouldn't be articulated in the sense of, well, you are the most privileged species in the universe, or with a right to dominate and to use all the resources and all other living beings for your own purposes. Your uniqueness is a gift that should be used to know the divine, to know the ultimate reality, and to live one's life in harmony with that truth. So to be human, I think I would say it's a privilege. In the Hindu tradition, it's a gift. In the Hindu tradition, it's a responsibility. It comes with deep moral obligations.
You were speaking before about ways there are fundamental interconnectedness. That to be human is, of course, to relate to one another, but also to be in a sort of, I think if I'm understanding you right, to be in a sort of network of relationships with all other living things.
You can't miss it if you read the Hindu texts. Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads repeatedly remind us that God created everything within God's own self. Everything is within divine reality. There's no place or space outside of divine reality. There's no place or space outside of divine reality. Everything exists within divine reality, and everything is interpenetrated by that divine being. So we are in God, and God exists equally in every one of us. The universe is sacred. I would have to use that word. It invites our reverence. Life is sacred, creation is sacred, and every being, everything that exists in the natural world has a sanctity, because since the divine exists in all and in everything, therefore it is proper to say, as we say in the Hindu tradition, that every form is in a way a form of the divine. We should, when we see well, when we see clearly, we discern and we see the divine present in everyone and in everything. And this includes, all the other living beings that are part of the universe. But it also includes the trees, and it includes the sun and the moon. So we have a very beautiful word mat in Sanskrit that we use in the Hindu tradition is called darshan. Darshan means to see, but darshan means sacred seeing. Sacred seeing, which means to be aware and mindful that everything, that the universe and everything we see in the universe is sacred, and to bring a spirit of reverence to that. And that reverence also, we should not forget, comes with also moral obligations. But those moral obligations spring out of that reverence. You know, if we just speak about the moral obligations and not about the reverence, the sacred, something fundamentally is missing. Because I'm often asked, you know, how is my pedagogy informed by my Hindu spirituality? How does my role as a teacher in a college setting? And I always answer by saying, like you as a teacher, Matt, you know, we prepare ourselves each day to go into the class. You know, what do I want my students to read? What questions I'm going to ask about the reading, how I'm going to engage them around the topic. We all do that diligently and as part of our responsibility. But I would always sit in my office quietly for a few moments before I went to class. And I would remind myself that I am entering a sacred space. The classroom is a sacred space, and I would invoke an attitude of reverence for each of my students that I'm going to encounter into that, and in that space. I know that on those days when I invoke that disposition in my heart, I would be a better teacher for me. It informed how this darshan, or seeing the sacred in my students, informed profoundly my methodology, because it disposed me to be attentive to them, to be mindful of them, to be respectful of everything that they said and every question that they asked. It meant for me giving myself fully to them in that relationship.